The universe holds secrets yet to be told, mysterious signals, forgotten worlds, intelligence beyond our understanding. Step into future echoes, where past, present, and future collide. Are you ready? Part 1. Introduction. The Boy and His Special Gift. On a rainy day in 1872, in a small village in rural England, raindrops pattered softly on the thatched roof of a cottage. The gray sky draped misty fields in a quiet shroud. Inside, Arthur Wren, a 10-year-old boy with tousled brown hair, sat by the window, his diary open in his hands, watching the world beyond. Arthur wasn't like the other children. From a young age, he carried a strange ability to see spirits, predict the future, and sense hidden energies in people's hearts. He wasn't sure if it was a gift or a curse. That day, alone, he wrote in his diary with shaky hands, marking October 14th, 1872, and noting a vision of his grandfather. He described his grandfather, a man he'd never met in life, dead before Arthur's birth, standing in the field as a faint figure in a white robe, smiling gently. Arthur wondered why he saw these things, why he couldn't be free like other kids to run and laugh without the weight of the unseen pressing on him. He tried to hide his gift, but it often slipped out. Running to school across the fields, he'd hear whispers from village children calling him Freaky Arthur, claiming he spoke to demons. Their fearful stares made him feel like an outsider, yet he clung to his diary, recording every moment to understand himself in a world that didn't. Part 2. The First Encounter. His Grandfather's Spirit. Late one night, in Arthur's small room, a candle flickered, casting shadows on the wooden walls. He sat on his bed, diary before him, scribbling quickly as if racing to capture his thoughts. A sudden cold breeze swept through, though the window was shut, and he whispered into the air, sensing something near. Then his grandfather, Henry Wren, appeared, a kind-faced man known only through his mother's tales, now standing before him, translucent, with bright eyes and a white robe. He told Arthur not to fear, that he was there to guide him. Stunned, Arthur listened as Henry spoke of his life as a poor, honest farmer. Henry warned that Arthur's gift, a window beyond this world, wouldn't always bring joy, speaking of karma, how actions left marks across many lives. As Henry faded into the dark, Arthur wrote of this encounter, noting karma's mystery and his desire to believe, though understanding still eluded him. Part 3. Prophecy and Struggle. Conflict with Society. One morning, Arthur walked with his mother, Eliza, to the village market under a cloudy sky. The air buzzed with chatter as they passed wooden stalls with eggs. Suddenly, Arthur froze, his eyes glazing over, and he whispered of a storm coming in 3 days, predicting Mr. Baker's house would fall. Eliza, alarmed, hushed him, but the villagers overheard, their murmurs turning hostile. A man shouted that Arthur was possessed, and Eliza insisted he was imagining things. Her eyes worried. The moment passed, but suspicion lingered in the crowd's stares as they moved on. 3 days later, the storm struck. Winds howled, rain poured, and Mr. Baker's old house crumbled in the tempest. The village stood stunned, their gazes on Arthur shifting from fear to awe, some whispering he was a prophet, others a bringer of doom. Yet no thanks came, only greater isolation. Arthur felt their rejection keenly, sitting alone by the riverbank with his diary. He wrote of their fear, his longing to help, and his resolve to master his gift despite the cold distance it created. The river flowed quietly beside him, a contrast to the storm's chaos, as he traced his thoughts on the page. He didn't want to harm anyone, only to use what he had for good, though he knew it would take time to learn how. Part 4. A conversation with his teacher, the philosophy of reincarnation. One quiet evening, Arthur read in his room. The candles glow soft on the wooden walls. A figure emerged. James Carter, his old teacher, dead 2 years, now faintly glowing before him. Arthur asked why he'd come, and Carter smiled, saying he'd help him understand his gift's origins. Carter spoke of reincarnation, lives woven across time with lessons and karma. He described Arthur's past as a 15th-century healer who died saving a village from plague, a life of compassion that birthed this ability, both reward and test. Arthur listened, imagining that distant self. As Carter faded, Arthur wrote of this revelation, feeling it might be true though he couldn't recall it. He pondered living many lives and vowed to make this one meaningful too. The candle's light steady as his thoughts deepened. Part 5. The Great Encounter, the Elder, Jesus. Under a bright moon, Arthur sat beneath a towering oak, diary in hand, the night still around him. A gentle light spread, and a tall man in a white robe appeared, serene, glowing faintly, not divine like in paintings. Arthur asked who he was, voice trembling. The man said he was a guide, nameless, with Arthur through many lives, here to finish a lesson. When Arthur wondered if he was Jesus, the man chuckled, calling himself part of a greater truth, urging Arthur to ask what mattered most. Arthur spoke of life's meaning, his loneliness, and his future. The guide replied that life was a circle, each step shaping him, that no soul stood alone. He said the future could change through self-change, kindness the key, as Arthur absorbed the words. The guide faded into moonlight, leaving Arthur to write of hope, that he could shape tomorrow by living better today. The oak stood silent witness as he closed his diary, a new resolve settling in his heart. Part 6. The Great Trial, Sacrifice. In 1878, at 16, Arthur faced a village gripped by a strange illness, fear thick in the air. He foresaw it but knew speaking would fuel distrust. Still, he couldn't watch people die, choosing to act in silence under the cover of night. He crept through muddy paths, leaving herbs at doorsteps, guided by instincts from a past life as a healer. Each burlap pouch carried hope, though he wondered if they'd accept his help, his coat damp with resolve. Days passed, and the illness waned. Some villagers recovered, offering shy gratitude. Others still glared. Arthur returned home, weary but steady, knowing he'd done what he could, even if it deepened his isolation. In their cottage, Eliza hugged him, tears on her face, saying he didn't need to prove anything, her pride clear. The candle's glow warmed them as he sat, diary open, writing of his choice and its weight. He didn't seek recognition, only peace with himself. The village stirred outside, some healing, some unchanged, but in that embrace, Arthur felt a quiet strength, his pen tracing the night's lessons. Part 7. Conclusion. A Message of Kindness. Years later, at 25, Arthur sat under the oak, now a man in a simple brown coat, reading his old diary. The leaves above rustled in sunlight, and he smiled, calm with the year's lessons, his gift a quiet companion. Brief visions flickered, his grandfather's kind face, Carter's nod, the guide's glow, each tied to his path. He closed the diary, the breeze stirring grass, and looked to the horizon, feeling he'd lived well, not as a hero but as himself. His life showed that kindness and growth lit the way, gift or not. He wrote a final entry, April 7th, 1887, hoping his goodness would carry forward in this life or beyond, as the wind whispered agreement. The journey of discovery never ends. Are you ready for the next mystery? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to explore more untold sci-fi stories with future echoes. See you on the next voyage.